Oh, hello. It's December 11th. Welcome to the show. If you're here, if you're not, well, hopefully you're here soon. Hey, there he is, Joe. What's up, buddy? Yeah, I missed you. Missed you last week. Last week was dismal without you, man. I was by myself the whole time, questioning my whole existence, my whole life. It was rough. I wasn't feeling good. Yeah, not good. But welcome back, buddy. Yeah. So I'm feeling better, as you can probably hear in my voice a little bit at least. So that's a good thing. And yeah, it's getting cold and getting a bit of the winter downs, winter blues. I haven't been working too much in the last little bit, so which has been kind of good. I've been looking at trying to get a cottage and stuff. So some things have been going on. Long story on that, but that's probably falling through. So yeah, well, I've been messing with the area. We'll say it's not really a studio. It's just a good little portion of my place. I'm messing with the lighting a little bit, trying to mess with the sound and stuff. And I don't have Tyler for that anymore, so I have to figure that stuff out myself. And been kind of letting it fall by the wayside. But yeah, I've got all these lights that I wasn't using, and now I'm using them. So you know, I was noticing a lot of weird shadows and stuff on my face. But yeah, we're fixing what we can. Hopefully the sound sounds better. I spent a little bit of time trying to fix that too. So but I do this all for you, man. I do it for you, Joe, especially. Anybody else watching? So I get other viewers, like I can see the viewers come in and out, but uh nobody wants to say anything, so whatever. That's fine. You can just watch me talk then. I'll just talk to you, Joe, and everybody else can just kind of watch. Yeah. So anyways, yeah. I'm gonna I'm gonna plug out a few extra segments this time around because I'm gonna have some time off. There's 2 Mondays. Obviously, Christmas falls on Monday, and New Year's falls on Monday. So I may do a show on New Year's Day, depending on what's going on, but maybe not. But definitely not Christmas Day. So I'm gonna have a week off at least, maybe two. So gonna have to have some segments in the middle there. Uh, you see my nose hairs? Yeah. Well, I put my camera up pretty close. I was playing with the idea of doing um, a little board here so I can read from the board. So I'm looking at the camera instead of looking down at the laptop. So I don't know, listen, I don't have a producer. I produce this thing myself. Uh, whatever. It's a work in progress. Listen, when I start making some money on the thing, then I can maybe throw some stuff at it. I'll go grab a producer. I'll get my own Jamie, like Joe Rogan has. He'll just sit like back here or something, and he'll just work the cameras. He'll work all that stuff. But for now, you get the cheap production that you get. You're lucky I've spent the money I've spent on the equipment I've spent it on. So yeah, just running the one monitor. I used to run a second monitor. I have one over here. I used to run a second one, but changed the setup. So, anyways, it just I wasn't really using it. When Tyler was here, it was the two of us. I was using it, but now I find I'm reading more than anything anyway. I'm just talking directly to the camera. So for me to have the monitor, it's just kind of whatever. I mean, I might set up something, but we'll see. Again, work in progress. But yeah, so got a few things to talk about this week. We're going to talk about the Alex Jones being back on Twitter thing or X, whatever. That's kind of cool. I mean, I knew it was going to happen eventually. It had to happen. Elon's a free speech absolutist. He was just, I don't know what he was doing with that. Maybe now in the with that whole thing was happening with the sponsors for his anti-Semitic comments, he's just kind of saying, "Screw it, I'm just going to put him back on," and good on him. I like that. Also, we're going to talk about Tucker Carlson and his new network that he's going to be launching. He's announced it. I guess it's going to be called TCN, probably Tucker Carlson Network or something like that. So there's that. We'll talk about Bitcoin having its worst day of the year, essentially. Um, just I guess Sunday night, and but it's still crazy good rise this year. So it's having a great year overall. One day, whatever. But we'll talk about that, and whatever. We'll talk about what we talk about all the time with Bitcoin. Also, Russia's having an election, which we should just say Russia's going to announce that Putin's going to do another 6 years without another election, because they really don't do elections. They're just kind of you know, they're just running formalities at this point. So, anyways, we'll talk about that. Also, China, that they're going through the opposite of what we're going through over here in North America. They're going through deflation, which is kind of funny. But talk about that and how they might be implementing the same policies that they do over here that don't work, long term. But yeah, again, we'll discuss and see where we end up there. Also, eminent domain. I want to talk about this a little bit. This actually pertains. I mean, this hits home with me a little bit with the whole cottage thing I was saying. Talk about that, and if it's too much of a government overreach at this point, you know, the spirit of it, if it's being abused, and we'll talk about it. Also, the holographic universe theory, kind of interesting theory there, that we're all in a 2D universe that's just being projected into a hologram. That's where you get this 3D whatever thing that we live in now. So we'll talk about that. And last but not least, we'll talk about an ingestible pill that that actually, I guess, that they've made essentially now. It's in human trials now, and it'll test your vitals for things like sleep apnea. I'm sure all kinds of different stuff. So good, bad, I don't know. Weird. Anyway, weird to ingest a pill that's gonna read your body and send that information somewhere. I don't know. So we'll talk about it anyway. Um, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about your monitor setup at some point too and stuff like. Cause yeah, I'm definitely gonna date the rig, if you will. But right now, yeah. Well, I know you believe in the simulation, so maybe it's both. Maybe it's a holographic simulation. I don't know. A lot of weird, interesting theories, but cool stuff. It just make your head explode. But either way. If you are watching, if you're one of the viewers that are watching and not saying anything, if you're not subscribed to the channel, I ask you to subscribe to the channel. It does help the algorithm. If you like the content, that is. If you don't, well, thanks for watching and um, also share. Oops. Also share the content that I put out every day during the week. Hit the like, all that kind of stuff. You know the drill with YouTube. Whatever you do for engagement, comment on stuff that helps the algorithm, helps push the content. Some of my content gets flagged at times, so you know I talk about things that are controversial. I don't know, whatever. Maybe I don't use the proper YouTube language, so I'm trying to correct myself and stay away from things that are going to get me kind of in trouble. But either way, you can help out small channels like mine by doing all those things. Yeah, and just put the comments if you're here. Don't be afraid. I will talk to you. I won't bite. Joe will talk to you. Sometimes some of my other guests that don't say much, but they'll jump in from time to time. They'll talk to you. People will talk. So yeah. All right. Well, listen. Without further ado, it's we're 8 minutes in, almost 9 minutes in. I'm gonna get to the first topic here. What I've been kind of waiting to discuss. So let me just kick this over here. Oops. Welcome back, Alex Jones. Welcome back to X. It's been a while. It's been since 2018. He was kicked off, or whatever he was. Um, and yeah, finally, Elon Musk has let him back, which, I'm a free speech absolutist. So I'm glad he's back. I like him personally, but, I know a lot of people don't. I know he's controversial. And I get that because he says some pretty, he says some weird stuff, and the way he says stuff is weird. So, I'm not even on board with him all the time. But um, again, I'm glad he's on. I'm going to read this article. This is NPR, so don't expect much. This is, there, you'll see. So, Elon Musk allows controversial conspiracy theorist Alex Jones back on X. I love how they just right away they frame it: controversial conspiracy theorist. Whatever. Okay. Elon Musk, owner of X, on Saturday announced his decision to allow Alex Jones back on the platform. Jones generated controversies for spreading false, wild conspiracies claiming that a New World Order was sacrificing children on a California compound, that the U.S. government had weather weapons that triggered catastrophes like major floods, and that FBI Director Robert Mueller was a demon. Yeah, that's an opinion that probably a lot of people share. Shortly after being formally reinstated to X, Jones and Musk joined Vivek Ramaswamy, Laura Loomer, a self-described proud Islamophobe who has been banned from some platforms, and others in a live chat on Sunday. I love how they just frame all the negative. I'm telling you, they want us silenced for what we said Jones. Conversation covered a series of, at times, confusing topics, including the deep state and threats that the participants perceived to masculinity. Allowing Jones back on X is a reversal of Musk's 2022 statement that the ban on Jones would not be lifted. Yeah, he said that, but I like that about Musk. I like that he'll say something and then he'll reconsider. Anybody who's super rigid on stuff like that, it just kind of irritates me. But he's more of a left centrist, so that's you can expect him to be a little bit more reasonable. On Saturday, Musk took a poll on X and, based on the results, decided to reinstate Jones's account. Previous to the poll, Jones's last post on the platform was September 6th, 2018. Yeah, so over 5 years ago. So it looks like he got 70.1% of almost 2 million votes. It's pretty good. So I'm glad to see that 1.4 million people want him back on the platform. And I share that sentiment. I'm glad he's there. It's unknown how advertisers who've been pulling ads from X over Musk's endorsement of anti-Semitic comments will respond to Jones's return. Musk raised eyebrows when he appeared on stage at the Deal Book Summit in New York in November and leveled profanities at companies who pulled ads from X. Muslims, immigrants, and the LGBTQ plus community are common targets for Jones, but what finally landed him in major legal trouble was claiming falsely that the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting in Newton, Connecticut was an inside job and a government operation. He also claimed again falsely that no one had died in the shooting, which left 26 people unalived. Oh, that's a word. Didn't say that in the article, but apparently that's the way you have to say it on YouTube. 20 of them being children, and that everyone speaking from the event was a crisis actor. The families of those who were unalived in the Sandy Hook school shooting sued Jones in Texas and Connecticut in 2018, saying that they'd suffered emotional pain and received death threats as a result of Jones' false claims that they were crisis actors and that the tragedy was staged. It's funny how they can claim. Listen, sure, I agree with all that. I agree with the fact that he shouldn't have said all that, and that was stupid. And he even admits he shouldn't have said it. But it's funny how other people can say things and post things like this and articles and opinions and all that about Alex Jones or someone like Alex Jones, and people that disagree with him, say on the left, would, I'm sure they threaten him. I'm sure he gets lots of death threats. That's okay. But if he says something on the right that maybe garners death threats for someone on the opposite side, and again, I'm not really saying the people from the Sandy Hook thing, because that's a different thing altogether. That was a non-political thing, I would think. That was just something he was saying. But if he were to say something about someone on the left and then they were to get death threats or like that, then he's going to be held accountable for those words. Like, words are words. Like, it just, we need to relax. Somebody can say stupid things, call it stupid, and we should all just move on. The families won a total of nearly $1.5 billion in compensatory punitive damages, prompting Jones to file for bankruptcy. He has yet to pay damages to the families. Jones has since admitted that the Sandy Hook shooting did indeed happen. So, okay. The lawyer for the Sandy Jones people posted this on X. Says, folks have asked me about Elon Musk letting Alex Jones back on X. Here's what will happen. Jones is a con artist, so he will target the innocent. He'll tell his audience to fear them. Once his audience is scared, he'll squeeze them for money. Everybody suffers except Jones. Thanks, Elon. Okay, buddy. Yeah, that sounds like what lawyers do, but it's weird. It's funny. It's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black there, Mr. Matei. I mean, just because you're taking the righteous position of the fact that you defended people that were in the right in that instance, uh, I'm sure most of your clientele is, and what you're doing with your clientele is a little sketch. So Musk has reinstated several banned or suspended accounts since purchasing Twitter, including ones belonging to former President Donald Trump and social media personality Andrew Tate, who was indicted earlier this year on human trafficking and rape charges in Romania. It's funny how they dropped that nugget at the end of the article. Again, yeah, like I said, it's NPR, so like what do we expect? It's going to be a rough article altogether. But good news, like I said, he's back. So look for Alex Jones and some of his, funny and weird stuff on X, and all that kind of stuff just adds flavor, whether you like him or not. I think certain people that have a good sense of humor, or or can take from all sides, will look at it and be like, man, you know what? That's good. I'm glad he's there. All right, what are you saying, buddy? You were talking the whole time. Sorry, buddy. Uh, he was so funny during the chat with Vivek. Went to pee and forgot to turn off his. I didn't actually see it. I'm gonna have to go back and look it up now. But that's pretty funny. Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're gonna see any money because, I mean, realistically, those kinds of lawsuits are frivolous anyway. Like people hear that, and it's mostly, like, you can sue anybody for anything really, as far as monetary damages like that. It's like, but what are you gonna do? They can just declare bankruptcy, and then what are you gonna do? You're gonna get money out of what? It's not that I agree with that, because in a lot of cases I think it sucks that they can do that, but in a lot of cases I also agree that it's good that they can do that, because some people are just going after people for frivolous lawsuits. I've witnessed them in real life, places I've worked where people have settled, like, just bullshit cases where somebody did something negligent on their part and then sued the business I worked for negligence. And it was just, one example was, I worked at McDonald's way back when I was a kid, and some woman's kid ran his head into one of the displays for the Happy Meal toys. Yeah, the owner paid her out, so to avoid court, he just settled out. But some people will do that kind of stuff, unfortunately. Uh, let's see. Also, Elon also unbanned me. I was in Twitter prison. Were you? Why were you in Twitter prison? Were you saying the nasty stuff on there? I've actually really never used Twitter. I got to get on there because I just go on there and look and stuff, but I never really use it. It just never really hit me. But now that Elon owns it, you know, it's kind of a free speech bastion, I guess you could say. Maybe I'll go and take a look. I'm gonna get on to the next thing here. Let's set this up. All right. What would you say? Yeah. Well, you can't say that, man. I can't even read that. You're stating biology there. You can't say that. That's not true. Bananas are bananas, and people are bananas sometimes, and people are whatever they want to be, man. Just the simulation. You should know that. Come on. All right, let's go. Tucker Carlson. He's gonna launch his own network. I guess TCN, Tucker Carlson Network, is what I'm guessing. He's announced this, which is good. I mean, finally, we all knew he was kind of in limbo, on Twitter, or X, I should say. I keep saying Twitter, but um, so obviously he was going to do something. Guy's huge. He might as well use that instead of making other companies money. He might as well make his own company money. So I'm going to read this article here. This is the BBC. Whatever. Sometimes BBC's kind of okay sometimes, but other times, I'm sure it's going to be pretty garbage. Tucker Carlson to launch paid streaming service after Fox News exit. So, Fox News abruptly announced his departure in April. The move represents a new chapter for the controversial host, who has spent the past few or several months posting content and interviews to his nearly 11 million followers on X. We're launching a brand new thing very soon, he said in a video. Mr. Carlson's streaming service arrives at a moment when conservative voices are seeking to create their own channels and personal brands after becoming dissatisfied with or ousted from mainstream media and social networks. We have been working in secret and producing an awful lot of material for months now, Mr. Carlson said in an announcement video posted on X. Mr. Carlson directed potential subscribers to his website, which is promoting a series of interviews with politicians like Mr. Trump. Come on. Politicians like Mr. Trump. Never heard them say that about Obama, but okay. And Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. It's just I hate the disrespect, but thanks, BBC. Who's accused of overseeing democratic backsliding in his home country. So he gets respect, but even though he's accused of overseeing democratic backsliding in his home country. Now, but former President Trump gets Mr. Trump. Okay, so that seems fair. Interviews with right-wing media personalities like Andrew and Tristan Tate, who have been charged with the R word and human trafficking by Romanian authorities, are also featured. All of this, they gotta put that all in there, right? The two brothers maintain their innocence. At least they put that little caveat, I guess. The new service, dubbed TCN, will feature a mixture of interviews, monologues, and other content for viewers who pay $72 annually, Mr. Carlson said on Monday. Former Trump administration official Neil Patel will serve as TCN's chief executive, the Wall Street Journal reported, while Mr. Carlson's former Fox producer Justin Wells will serve as president and lead the service's programming. Mr. Carlson was the biggest star on the Fox News for many years. His show Tucker Carlson Tonight frequently led broadcasting news ratings, and he spent several years cultivating a massive audience by fiercely supporting former President Donald Trump and a riding wave of populist outrage. That's baloney. So I hate that. You're misreporting there. He didn't fiercely support President Trump. He supported him at times, and he would call him out at times. He was never really a fierce supporter. He's very centrist. So to say that, it's just you're just trying to they just try and do this thing where they just lump everybody into the same bath, right? So irritating. But yeah, good job, BBC. Excellent reporting. His popularity gave him a significant sway within the Republican Party, but critics accused him of peddling misinformation and racist ideology during his segments. Okay. Well, why don't you say what others said? Why just say what the critics say? Okay. He remained at the peak of his ratings and political power when Fox News announced his departure on the 24th of April. The network did not provide an explanation for Mr. Carlson's exit, simply stating that he had agreed to part ways. Days before his departure, Fox News paid $787 million settlement to Dominion Voting Systems to end their defamation lawsuit over claims the network had promoted falsehoods about the integrity of the company's voting machines during the 2020 election. Mr. Carlson has claimed his firing was a condition of the settlement. Both Fox News and Dominion have publicly denied this assertion. The streaming announcement also comes a week after the Washington Post reported that a former Fox News employee filed a sexual assault lawsuit against Mr. Wells, the producer, the producer's going to use from thing. They didn't they should have prefaced that again because it was so far back in the article. Stemming from an alleged 2008 incident at the conservative news network. Spokesperson for Mr. Wells declined to comment on the record to the BBC. Attorney Harmeet Dillon, who previously represented Mr. Wells, told the Post that the suit was meritless, and the television producer denies the allegations unequivocally. Okay, so anyways, so that's what that is. So he's finally announced something, which is good. I might even subscribe. We'll see. I don't know, $72 a year is not much. Is that $6 a month? Seems fair, and his content's good, and you're usually paying more for any kind of service like Apple TV or any of those kinds of things. You're going to be paying more than that anyway. So, and I like his content. So, yeah, you can probably sign me up as a content purchaser. Okay, yeah, let's get through to the next one here. I'm actually happy about this finally. I've been waiting for him to announce something. So, good on him. All right, this will probably, if Art's watching or if he gets alerted, whenever I'm talking about Bitcoin stuff, my buddy gets alerted and he'll jump in the comment section. So we'll see. Bitcoin has been doing awesome this year, but in the last couple of days, not so much. Well, actually, I should say in one day, not so much. I'm going to read this article here. This is Business Insider. And then I'm going to show you what Bitcoin's done over the last year so you can see what kind of growth is like on it. So it took 20 minutes for Bitcoin to erase a week-long rally. Bitcoin saw nearly 1 week's worth of gains wiped out in a span of roughly 20 minutes Sunday night in New York. The cryptocurrency saw a sharp 6.5% plunge around 9 p.m. Eastern, moving from above 43,300 US dollars to as low as 40,659, data from the TradingView shows. The price of Bitcoin hovered at about 41,711 at 11:30 a.m. Eastern on Monday, down by about 4.8% in the last 24 hours. Ether, Solana, and other tokens also sold off as trading began in Asia on Monday and were still down as the trading day got underway in North America. The cause of the sudden move down was not immediately clear, but CoinGlass data cited by CoinDesk shows a flurry of positions liquidated in the 12 hours beginning on Sunday evening, with upwards of 335 million in liquidations across cryptocurrencies and about 300 million of that in long positions. Bitcoin alone saw more than 89 million in liquidations. Wow. That's funny because in relation, Bitcoin makes up probably of the market cap about half of the total market cap of cryptocurrencies, and it's only related to about 30% of the movement. So it's showing that people are actually holding, which is that's good, I guess. I don't know. People are taking long positions on Bitcoin, which well, I guess with this year the way it's moving, they're gonna do that. Volatility is expected this week as traders await key November inflammation, inflammation, same difference. Inflation data on Tuesday, and the Federal Reserve delivers its latest decision on monetary policy on Wednesday. Stocks have wavered to start the week as investors brace for a packed event schedule. Wall Street largely expects central bank policymakers to make no change to interest rates until early 2024. Economists at ING, for their part, have predicted the Fed will cut rates 6 times next year. Wow. Last week, cryptocurrencies were enjoying an early Santa Claus rally, with Bitcoin changing hands uh, above 44,000 on December 6th. Various other tokens also saw strong gains as bullish traders piled on growing optimism around events like the approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF in the US and the upcoming Bitcoin halving in mid 2024. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know they were doing that. A halving event. That's nice. That's going to get a lot more Bitcoin out there. So it's always a good thing, I guess. Despite the sharp sell off to the start of the week, Bitcoin has notched more than 150% gains in 2023. And I'll show you that right now, actually. So here's the chart here. You can see that. Look at this over the year. So we started January 2nd at 16,675. And as of close, December 11th here, 41,168. So 150% growth. That's massive. Could be, I don't even know if that's, maybe that might be the best year for Bitcoin ever. I'm not sure. But the 5 year chart, let's see here. Why aren't you showing me the 5 year chart? Oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So December 15th of 2018, $3,183. I mean, man, if you bought, look at this. Whew. I mean, it has, what was the top? 64.4. Wow. Man, if you sold then, that'd be good. But it may have hit kind of a plateau. Maybe the 40,000 mark could be where it's kind of, it's low shelf. Who knows? We'll have to see next year. If next year's another sort of bullish market for it, it may never get below 35, 40 grand again. So, good news for some Bitcoin holders. I'm not one of them, unfortunately, but I think it's I've said many times when I think about this coin, I think it's too tied to the market now. So I think as far as the way cryptocurrencies are supposed to be and decentralized, I don't think this coin is particularly decentralized. But looks like a lot of people are making a lot of money on it. So I guess good on you. All right. Uh, yeah, yeah. I I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Like some of these countries that are kind of it's heavily used over in Asia, obviously, right? It's not as much over here. Um, a lot of investors over here, but it's more transacted over there, I would say. Um, so yeah, definitely, I think it definitely affects their economy a little bit more than ours, but it definitely is tied to our economy. You see the market going down, you see cryptos going down. You know, it's not as decentralized as people want it to be. Um, yeah, exactly. So when they have, anytime you get a halving event, it's going to put more out there and get more trading, that kind of thing. I think it's a little stagnant. That's one of the reasons why. Well, I mean, it's also one of the reasons why it's the most stable of the cryptocurrencies, realistically, and why it has over half of the market cap, right? The fact that there's a limited quantity out there, right? So if they half it, now you got double the quantity out there. Yeah, it's going to encourage more movement, but volatility, perhaps. I don't know. I have to let my buddy weigh in on that. All right. Let's get to the next thing here. Russia's having one of those things that we have. They're having an election, but it doesn't mean the same over there as it means over here. Well, at least what most people think, anyway. Over there, it's kind of just there's a one guy party over there. The rest of them are not so much. I'm gonna read this article over here. This is global news. Yeah, it's whatever. I don't have a lot to say good about global news, but we'll see what they do here. The Russian election, a chance to show Putin is vulnerable. Navalny camp says Navalny's was one of his staunch was one of his you know I guess you could say competition, but not really. Anyways, with his hands on all levers of power in Russia, Vladimir Putin cannot be beaten in a presidential election. Top aides and jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny said. But they see the 100-day campaign as a chance to expose him as vulnerable on the issues that most matter to Russians, the war in Ukraine and the state of the economy. Putin declared his candidacy for another 6-year term on Friday, and there is no serious rival to challenge him, with Navalny serving more than 30 years in a penal colony and other critics also jailed or in exile. With the Kremlin in full control of state media and able to decide who can and cannot run, the Navalny camp says this is not a real election. But it sees the campaign window as a rare opportunity to draw Russians into a political conversation, convince them that Russia's main problems are Putin's making. Of course, it's impossible to beat Putin in the elections, Navalny said, or aide Leonid Volkov told Reuters. The aim of our campaign is to change the political agenda in Russia. They don't really have, I'm going to spread this information. They have elections, but realistically, when you have one guy that's been elected for the last 20 plus years, it's kind of you're looking at basically a one party system over there. Um, he has an 80% approval rating, which I don't know if that's real or not. Like, who knows? I mean, it doesn't seem very democratic if the same guy wins all the time. But we're also not used to that because our system has term limits, at least in the U.S. In Canada, here you can pretty much do the same thing. But all right, I'll continue to read here. Putin is vulnerable because he does not have answers today to the questions that that really worry people. These are the questions of an exit strategy for the war, when and how it should end, and when the soldiers should or will return home, and the questions of destitution, poverty, corruption, financial credits, and all the rest. Kremlin says Putin will win another 6-year term because he commands overwhelming support across Russian society, with opinion poll ratings of around 80%. So far, only 3 people have declared their intention to run against him. 2 are low-profile figures: Boris Nadezhdin, I don't know, and Yekaterina Duntsova, Dunts, who may struggle to gather the 300,000 signatures required to support their candidacies. That's hilarious. They can't even really launch it because they can't even get enough support to be a real candidate. That's control. You got some control over there. Good job, Putin. The third nationalist, Igor Girkin, is in jail awaiting trial on a charge of inciting extremist activity. Oh, that sounds familiar. Hmm. It correlates with a country. I'm not sure which one. Kind of losing the name offhand. It begins with a. I think it begins with a U, but I don't know. Anyways, sounds pretty familiar. Other possible candidates who have yet to declare include communist leader Gennady Zyuganov and liberal Grigory Yavlinsky, both political veterans and serial election losers. I like that. Yeah. Anyways, that's enough for that article. The gist is he's running for re-election. He's just going to be elected. And let's just be real. He's going to be in power until he can no longer be in power, and then someone else I guess, of their choosing, who knows, will just take the reins. That's I don't know if that is a symptom of a very corrupt system over there, or if it's just a symptom of the people. The people they like a certain leader and they just stick with him. I don't know what it is, but it looks corrupt. On the surface, it looks corrupt. Whatever. I guess Russians do what Russians do. All right. Okay, let me get on the next thing. That's 4 down, 35 minutes. Plugging through okay. Considering I'm talking a lot tonight. All right. So China is having problems opposite of what we're having over here. Where we're having inflation problems, everything costs too much. They're having deflation problems, which means that prices are going down. Be a nice problem to have. Well, for us at least. Over there, not so much, and could push them to do some weird stuff that we've done over here that uh, you can argue does or doesn't work. I would argue doesn't work. But here we go. This is CNN business, so whenever it begins with CNN, you know what kind of dumpster fire it's going to be. But let's go. China is another massive headache now. It can't stem deflation. While many central banks around the world are still trying to cool inflation, China is grappling with falling prices. Consumer price index dropped 0.5% in November on an annual basis, biggest fall since the depths of the pandemic 3 years ago, according to data released by China's National Bureau of Statistics on Saturday. The drop marked an acceleration in the rate of deflation from October, when the CPI fell 0.02%, or 0.2%, sorry, from a year earlier, prompted calls for urgent action from Beijing to boost demand and prevent a downward spiral of prices. The data come days after Chinese policymakers vowed to strengthen fiscal and monetary support to boost the world's second biggest economy, which is struggling with a real estate crisis, which we've talked about on a previous podcast. Which they just have this real estate bubble. Ooh, I get the burps. Excuse me. And dry mouth. Um, yeah, high youth unemployment and subdued consumer confidence. Uh, Sounds a little bit like what we were going through over here. China has been fighting weak prices for most of this year due to the property market slump, weak spending. Deflation is bad for the economy because consumers and companies may put off purchases or investments in anticipation of prices falling further. That in turn could further slow the economy and create a vicious cycle. Consumer inflation began slowing in February and turned negative in July for the first time in more than 2 years. It returned to positive territory in August and was flat in September, but fell back below zero in October. China's deflation situation is deepening with the triple whammy from domestic food prices, international oil price corrections, and weak domestic demand. Now, analysts from the city said in a Sunday report, good thing that Citi's weighing on this. Citibank, which is one of the guys that were involved in all of our financial stuff over here. So good job you're weighing in on this. Signs of price weaknesses are now spreading from goods to services, they added. Food prices were a major drag on the CPI, down 4.2% in November from a year earlier. In particular, pork prices plummeted 31.8%. Nobody liked the pig over there. Gasoline prices declined after international oil prices hit their lowest level in months in November. Services inflation also slowed. It was up just 1% from a year ago last month, compared to a 1.2% increase in October. Producer Price Index, or PPI, which is mainly driven by prices of commodities and raw materials, dropped 3% in November, down for 14 months in a row. So here's where it gets squirrely. More stimulus needed. That word stimulus, it works, or does it? The worsening deflation pressure has cast further doubt over China's economic recovery. There is no time for policy hesitation to prevent a vicious loop between deflation, confidence, and activities, the city analyst said. Late last month, Pan Gongcheng, the governor of the People's Bank of China, said in Hong Kong that China would keep monetary policy accommodative to support the economy and expected consumer prices to rise in the coming months. On Friday, China's top officials convened for a Politburo meeting and vowed to do more to expand domestic demand and spur consumer spending. This is the problem. This is the problem, I think, with capitalism. Capitalism in itself, and the idea of this, that I am gonna say I let's say I make a good and then I sell that good to John over here, and then John uses that good to make another thing, and then he sells it to Tom over here, and then Tom, sorry, they're all guys, but whatever. And then Tom does the same. He sells it to Gina. Here, we added a girl in there. And Gina is the end seller to the consumer. And the consumer buys it off Gina, and bang, bang, bang. You get this nice little tree of people that are making money, and society's rolling along. Problem is, you got all this you got all this price and manipulation going on behind the scenes to try and make people buy off Gina. Or now, instead of having three middlemen, you have, one middleman, and now all those middle income sort of brackets are gone. So this big entity over here is lobbying the government to say, hey, listen, we've got to get more people buying from Gina because we're selling to Gina and Gina is not buying as much from us anymore. And then you start getting some backward manipulation in from the government to try and push this kind of stuff. And they're trying to pull all these strings. And suddenly it's like, oh, well, we need stimulus now. Now we got to give money over here to save, I forget what the first guy's name. Let's just call him Tom. We got to save Tom over here because Tom's sales are down and Tom's got shareholders and Tom's got, you know, CEO and a board of directors and such, and they've all got to get fat, big bonuses and such. So that's where the trouble is with this kind of stuff. And now they're just gonna do the same thing with these. Probably add something like quantitative easing in, and they're gonna be in the same trouble the U.S. is in with, you know, massive amount of deficit and money just you know so much money being out there, it's not chasing any goods. So anyways, I'll just finish this article. I can get on a tangent on this. Friday, China's top officials. Oh, I already said the Politburo meeting, along with the annual Central Economic Work Conference that is expected later this month, typically sets the tone for economic policy for the coming year. Investors are waiting for more details from the CWC about economic policy for next year. The city analysts adding that they expect imminent cuts to the reserve requirement ratio, the amount of money banks must keep in reserve, and interest rates. So, again, all of this, like I said, is just manipulation, just constant manipulation of a market that on its own, without a bunch of manipulation, actually works decently well. So good luck. Good luck, China. Good luck with quantitative easing. It works really, really well, at least for the top 1%. For the rest of us, it just adds to our debt load. Uh, subsidize Gina. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Poor Gina. But Gina actually kind of represents Walmart or something like that, right? Now, it's not like Gina is the, mom and pop shop, which then I would agree. Let's subsidize Gina. All right, let's get on to the next thing here. This one's got personal written all over it for me. Eminent domain. You heard of it? Do you know what it is? If you don't, I can educate you a little bit. Uh, First, I'm going to start with this article, and then it'll probably educate you a little bit. And then I'm going to talk about my own personal sort of situation where, you'll see. I'm going to share a story, and you'll see how it relates to me in that story. So this is from, I don't even know this, U.S. News? Smaller outlet, I guess, but, whatever. So I don't have any opinion on how they're right. We'll see how it goes. So it's just titled Our Government Overlords. So I'm going to read this article here. John Locke explained the primary role of government in 1689, writing, "The great and chief end, therefore, of men uniting into commonwealths and putting themselves under government is the preservation of their property." But as axiomatic as this might have become over the next 250 years, many people who work in government at every level seem to have forgotten this aspect of their jobs, and sadly, that's the most charitable possibility. This was brought into full public view recently when Dallas councilwoman Sandy Grayson lamented, on camera no less, that a citizen would have the temerity to fight back in court as the city attempted to take his land through a condemnation proceeding. So they come in, condemn the property for whatever purpose that they desire to use that property for the good of public. And you as the property owner is just supposed to say, okay, cool, just take it, I guess, and pay me a pittance for it and not be able to fight back. That's basically what she's saying here. She said, with no apparent sense of understanding, that the citizen in question was fighting to keep his own property. It's just infuriating that if you are rich enough, you can hold the city hostage for years and then get what you want. There's something really wrong with that. According to this government employee, there's something wrong with people maintaining ownership of their property if the government wants it. The councilwoman knew she, and by extension the Dallas city government, was in the wrong too, as she admits that in the end we're settling because he will probably win. So that's kind of funny in a way. So basically, what you're saying is, it sucks that this entity, this guy, we'll say, because it's really a business entity, has the power to fight back against the government and actually retain their property. Because realistically, whenever we want to use, you know, eminent domain on someone else, they don't have the means to fight us, and they just have to give in. That's in a nutshell what she's saying. Turns out the government cannot simply wave a magic wand and condemn a property. In this case, because of the desire to run a water pipeline through it, there are rules that at least some portions of the government still see fit to follow. But as the councilwoman noted, the citizen in question here, hotel magnate Monty Bennett, had more than enough money to fight for the right to keep his own land. Most other people are not so well situated, and with them, government at all levels is much more ham fisted in its approach. People often lose their property simply because government wants it for some other reason. Eminent domain and civil asset forfeiture proceedings prove as much beyond any doubt. Okay, so the difference between an eminent domain and a civil asset forfeiture is one is by necessity, the government's necessity for, say, the betterment of society. For example, running a water line, or a border wall, let's say, or something like that. Whereas civil asset forfeiture is when they do it due to some type of crime, or or the proceeds are being used for something that will break a crime, like, or will break the law. So that's the difference between that. Eminent domain is one of those uncomfortable legal principles that nearly everyone agrees to, or agrees is necessary, but no one wants applied to them. The principle is that when the government has the right to confiscate property, provided that it uses the property for the common good, and that it compensates the owner for the fair market value of the property. Even those who find the principle distasteful would agree that that is reasonable. After all, without eminent domain, a single recalcitrant, oh, wow, recalcitrant, that's a word, property owner could stand in the way of a project that promised to benefit tens or even hundreds of thousands of people. In practice, however, neither common good nor fair market value mean what reasonable people would assume. Most people naturally assume that the common good is something that benefits the entire community. The definition courts have accepted, though, has been more expansive. In the landmark 2005 case, Kelo versus the City of New London, state and local officials wanted to spur economic development in New London, Connecticut. Officials convinced a very large pharmaceutical company to build a $300 million research facility on land that was largely, though not entirely, owned by the city. The problem was that Suzette Kilo's home was on some of the property this large pharmaceutical conglomerate wanted. The city of New London claimed that the large pharmaceutical conglomerate facility would create 1,000 new jobs, bring new commerce to the city, and would generate more tax revenue, which the city would then be able to spend for the common good. While the government is not permitted to use eminent domain simply to take property from one person and give it to another, even if the first person is compensated, it may take property from one person and give it to another if use by the public is the purpose of the transfer. So, see, in this situation, it's obvious that um, they're doing it. It's a weird thing there, because I understand that, yeah, it's for the good of the community essentially. If there all these thousands jobs are, or this 1,000 jobs are created, but it's you're taking it from one entity and giving it to another entity, right? So that's kind of a weird caveat of this whole thing. Okay, so it says here, in his dissent, Justice Clarence Thomas said that if, as the court claimed, economic development is an acceptable example of common good, then there is no instance in which a government could not take private property. Well said. It's really smart. Very, I mean, Clarence Thomas is a very smart um, Supreme Court justice. So, since Kelo, there is effectively no such thing as private property. All property is now simply held by people in trust until such time as the government decides that it wants it, or, more disturbingly, would rather that someone else have it. Thomas was right, of course. He was also in the minority. Okay, this article keeps going on a little bit. I'm not going to read the rest of the article. I'm going to talk about my sort of situation that happened to me. I've been looking for a cottage recently to buy one, and I found one on some waterfront property up in the Muskokas, which is in Canada and cottage country. And unfortunately, due to a very large flood back in 2019, there is a new proposed floodway for that region. So this cottage I was looking at just happens to lie 100% in this floodway. And new bylaws state that in this floodway, you cannot build and you cannot um, alter in any way the land. So making effectively that land useless. So that essentially is another way of exercising, uh, you know, what do you call it? Uh, what's whatever domain. Why am I looking? Eminent domain. I'm I'm trying to blank there. Uh, so another way of just exercising that without actually having to do anything. You just say, hey, this is now for public safety that we need to have this section as runoff for you know for winter melt off, and such because this apparently was like 100-year event. And so, I mean, I don't own this property now. I was looking to buy it, and it was listed, which is strange because it should have been dezoned. Um, but now the people that own this property, how are they ever going to sell it? Basically, they have expensive, you know, waterfront tent property. Like, what are you going to do? There's a cottage there, but it's been condemned. Power's been cut from it. You can't get power connected back to it. You can't build. You can't alter it. So you're screwed. So this whole idea that this eminent domain is something that we allow government to just have power to do on a whim is kind of like the tail wagging the dog, isn't it? Like if the government are there in our best interest, they're people, group of people that are there for our best interest, then how do they make these decisions arbitrarily against us? It's a very strange sort of situation. And I know if I were the owner of this property, I would be pretty upset. But in the interim, I guess eminent domain. Careful. If you own something, you never know if you actually technically own it until again, until the until Uncle Sam comes a knocking. What you got to say, buddy? I can see your. I don't think it makes land use, but they shouldn't be telling you. It actually does. No, honestly, it does. I've been looking this up. So it it makes it so you just can't build. You just can't build at all. And now, I mean, so if okay, for example, in my instance, with well, yeah, you could run a generator, sure, but in my instance, you can't get power run back to it because they've cut the power from like literally from the stack. They've pulled the meter, they've cut it from the stack, so it's right from the pole. There's no power. If I could, sure, I could just buy the property, I could start building, but I'm not going to be able to get you know the utility to come hook up power. You're right. I could throw some generators on it, I guess. And then, but who knows? Maybe they come back and they arrest me. Who knows? Like I don't know what they would do necessarily. It's called legal noncompliance. So I don't know. Like I could do all kinds of things where I could build all kinds of mitigations to the water. So I just don't agree that they should be able to do that. If it's your land, you should be able to do what you need to do on your land, especially if the reason for the condemnation of your land is public safety or what they deem to be safety or something. I mean, we do all kinds of things that are unsafe. You know, people jump out of planes. That's pretty inherently unsafe. But you just sign a waiver and you say, hey, if my my chute doesn't open and I die, well, okay, I'm dead. No, you know, I'm not going to back after the person who's flying the plane or back my chute or whatever, right? So it's it's freedom's being taken away from us, and and you wouldn't even know it until it's exercised against you because most people would just be like, oh, well, but they're not involved in that, so they're like, oh, hey, that sounds reasonable to me. Well, not reasonable if you lose your cottage because of it. So it was just frustrating to me because this great piece of land, I would love to, either rebuild the cottage that's on it, fix it, or just erect a new one. And now it's just useless. So because they've got a plan, because our government up here has a plan for water shut off essentially. So whatever. Um, And yeah, you're right. I agree. Government serving us is a funny term. It's they're their own entity at this point. So, all right, let me get on to the next thing here. We have some funnier, or not funnier, but lighter subjects. So, holographic theory. That's where we're at now. So we're finding all kinds of new theories. This one's not really a new theory. This is like a 25-year-old theory, but it's interesting. I'm gonna read this article here. This is physics.org, phys.org. It's just gonna explain very simply what holographic universe theory is and the funniness behind this. Whether you believe this or not, there's all kinds of different things. Simulation theory. There's all kinds of different theories now that are coming out, but they all have some merit. They all have grounds in quantum physics and such, which makes them plausible. It just kind of makes it neat, right? So here we go. So a UK, Canadian, and Italian study has provided what researchers believe is the first observational evidence that our universe could be a vast and complex hologram. Theoretical physicists and astrophysicists investigating irregularities in the cosmic microwave background, or the afterglow of the Big Bang, have found there is a substantial evidence supporting a holographic explanation of the universe. In fact, as much as there is for the traditional explanation of these irregularities using the theory of cosmic inflation, or otherwise the expanding universe. Excuse me. The researchers from the University of Southampton, UK, University of Waterloo, Canada, Perimeter Institute, also Canada, INFN, Lisi, Italy, and the University of Salento, Italy, have published findings in the journal Physical Review Letters. Holographic universe, an idea first suggested in the 90s, actually 97, I think it was, is one where all the information that makes up our 3D reality plus time is contained in a 2D surface on its boundaries. Professor Kostas Skenderis of mathematical sciences at the University of Southampton explains, imagine that everything you see, feel, and hear in 3 dimensions and your perception of time, in fact, emanates from a flat 2-dimensional field. Well, this will make the flat earthers go crazy. The idea is similar to that of ordinary holograms, where a 3-dimensional image is encoded in a 2-dimensional surface, such as in the hologram on a credit card. However, this time the entire universe is encoded. Although not an example with holographic properties, it can be thought of as rather like watching a 3D film in a cinema. We see the pictures as having height, width, and crucially depth, when in fact it all originates from a flat 2D screen. The difference in our 3D universe is that we can touch objects, and the projection is real from our perspective. In recent decades, advances in telescopes and sensing equipment have allowed scientists to detect a vast amount of data hidden in the white noise or microwaves, partially responsible for the random black and white dots you see on an untuned TV, left over from the moment the universe was created. I think that's kind of funny. That's it. Sorry, excuse me. Still getting over this cough a little bit. It's funny that when you see that in the black and white on your TV, that's like left over, you know, microwaves and waves from radio waves and such from the beginning of the universe. Kind of bizarre to me, but it's what it's said to be. You could tell me anything. I don't really know, so I just have to take your explanation of it for face value, I guess. Using this information, the team were able to make complex comparisons between networks of features in the data and the quantum field theory. They found that some of the simplest quantum field theories would explain nearly all cosmological observations of the early universe. Professor Skendris comments, holography is a huge leap forward in the way we think about the structure and the creation of the universe. Einstein's theory of general relativity explains almost everything large scale in the universe very well, but starts to unravel when examining its origins and mechanisms at quantum level. So yeah, it works in all the big, but then when you start getting really tiny, it starts to break down. That's where you get quantum mechanics from, right? Scientists have been working for decades to combine Einstein's theory of gravity and quantum theory. Some believe the concept of a holographic universe has the potential to reconcile the two. I hope our research takes us another step towards this. Excuse me. Scientists now hope their study will open the door to further our understanding of the early universe and explain how space and time emerged. So, interesting stuff there. when you can get a theory that actually would answer both, because that's, like I said, that's the problem. You get one theory works, or this other, you start getting it down to the quantum level, and it's like, nope, not so much. So just goes to show how little we know. But if we are on some kind of hologram or simulation theory, as my buddy Joe likes to say, yeah, it's interesting to say the least. Uh, yeah, I'm a complete flat earther. Yeah, absolutely. I walk on the earth; it's flat when I walk on it. Hence, flat Earth makes sense. I've thrown like I got a good arm, so I've thrown a rock like all the way up, and I've hit the firmament, like boom off the firmament. I've seen it, so I got proof. I didn't get it on video because I, couldn't hold, couldn't hold the phone like that, with this hand and throw with that hand. So I don't have any proof. Just have to take my word for it. I've totally hit the firmament. I think I might have. I think I might have cracked it. There's a little bit of a leak. I think Elon Musk has to get up there and put some, I don't know, some like duct tape or something like that to stop the water, because the firmament, the water is up there, so he's got to stop the water from the leak up there. So it's science. I'm gonna, I'm gonna screw you over with all that science. Yeah. All right. Let's get on to the last thing. We're at over an hour. I haven't done over an hour in a long time. And like I said, I'm getting over. It's like, and my throat is like ready to cough. I got a tickle the whole time. Now I'm drinking bubbly, and that's gonna make me want to burp. So I'm just a mess. I apologize. And I'm making you late for Tim Pool. So let's get through the next one here. All right. So science has come up with an ingestible pill that we can swallow. This kind of sounds scary to me. But let me read this article. This is Medical Device Network. I don't know. Never heard of these guys, but they're talking about a pill that you can swallow. So let's read. Ingestible pill that monitors vitals yields positive results in human trial. Yeah. An ingestible pill that monitors vital signs from inside the body has produced positive results from a first in-human study. The data published on 17th of November in the journal Device demonstrates that the mini sensor could replace intrusive wearable sensors in sleep studies. Developed by Solero Systems, the VM pill was investigated by researchers at the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the U.S. and patients, scheduled for a sleep study. It works by detecting vibrations in the body and wirelessly transmitting data signals to a computer. The device, the size of a vitamin capsule, has tested in the stomachs of 10 patients at the West Virginia University Sleep Evaluation Center. A total of 57 hours of pill data was logged across the subject group. Researchers report that when compared to standard wearable monitoring devices, the device was able to monitor respiration rate and heart rate with an accuracy of 92.7 and 96.2% respectively. Diagnosing sleep disorders usually requires patients to stay overnight in the sleep lab, hooked up to sensors and machines. Researchers suggest that the pill could provide a less intrusive way to collect accurate sleep data. Yeah, like this is weird, man. This is kind of thing that like I'm all for cool technology that can help different stuff, and I was supposed to go to do one of those sleep things because I think I probably have sleep apnea or something like that. And I just haven't wanted to because I don't want to go to some sleep clinic and get wired up and then have to, you know, stay there overnight. And it's just screw that and whatever. If I die in my sleep, I die in my sleep. If you can't handle my snoring, well, I'm just going to another room, I guess. So, but if you could just pop a pill in, I don't know. I guess it's a little worrisome though, because there's lots of stuff that we can put in our bodies now that can do weird stuff. You know, some of these RNA things, and some of these V things that people are putting in their body, potentially, who knows, might be doing some stuff. I don't know. But a pill that is actually monitoring our vitals, yeah, I don't know. It's a real weird thing for me, and it sounds a little bit 1983 and kind of scares me a bit. So I don't know, but let me know what you think in the comments. Are you for it? Are you against it? Science just keeps progressing. I guess we just got to go with it. All right. An hour and 5. I got an hour and 5. That's got quite a ways through there. Joe, thanks for being with me, buddy. If you're still there, if you didn't leave to go watch things, I don't blame you if you did, because I went a little long. But yeah, if you were watching and you didn't comment, well, yeah. If you aren't a subscriber and like the content, subscribe to the channel. If you like the content, hit the like, all that kind of stuff. Look for all my videos in segments, 5 o'clock every day, pretty much. Sometimes missing Monday. Generally from Tuesday to Sunday. Sometimes Monday I have one. 5 o'clock. Look for those. Share, like, comment, do all the stuff. Those help the small channel. Um, you know, and yeah. And if you were watching again, thanks for watching. Catch me again next week, same time, 7 o'clock Monday, and then at least a 1 week, maybe 2 week hiatus after that. So, um, yeah, that's where we're at. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.